Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. And today, man, I'm going to be providing you with my full card predictions and betting breakdown for week 2 of the Dana White's Contender Series. And man, I am really excited for this fight card. I think we have some very competitive matchups that will be bangers and just overall a pretty violent night of fights on a Tuesday night on week 2 of the Dana White's Contender Series. Now, not only am I excited for these matchups, but I'm also very excited because I'm taking Smeezy Incorporated in person to the Meta Apex. That is right. You heard it here first. I will be there live in person watching these fights at the Meta Apex, the Dana White's Contender Series. I am really, really excited. And part of the reason why I am going in person is because I think we do have at least 3 banger matchups on paper, right? And I think the other 2 fights, which I would say are a little bit on the side of the Goy slot matchmaking, I still think that they should have violent finishes to them. So I think this is a very fun card, a lot to be excited about, interesting from a prediction standpoint, which is always something that I can appreciate. So without further ado, let's get into the first fight of the night between Tanner Trembley and Roman Puga. All right, I don't know why Tapology is doing this new thing where they just fucking ass rape you with ads. So we're going to go over here. But both of these fighters are very good fighters. They're both UFC level. This is one of my favorite fights on this card. This might be my favorite fight on the card. The main event is really good as well. But enough talk about how good this fight is. Let's kind of break it down a little bit here, okay? I'm a big fan of both these guys. I watched a lot of interviews on these guys trying to get a gist of what they're thinking about going into this fight week, where they see their advantages. And I think they both kind of have the right game plans. They both have the right taste, the right flavor of how this fight might play out. So it kind of just comes down to how you guys think the fight plays out, how I thought the fight plays out when I saw the tape. And man, I don't fucking know. I ended up picking Roman Puga by decision, but I do think that Tanner Trembley as the underdog does have a lot of value on it, okay? Minus 170 from Roman Puga. I can understand why you do like him, but he does swing wild. He is a professional boxer. I like the way that he gets that jab going, rips to the body. He does have pretty quick hands. His head movement is not perfect, but it's still existent, which is a nice thing to see. He's the quicker striker between the two guys, and he has the better combinations. Now, on the ground, he chains together submissions very well, pretty similar to a Diego Lopez, but he hasn't had too much success with the submission game, simply for the fact of he tends to have a lot of success with his boxing. Now, I think he just was recently awarded his brown belt, so that's something to note. And overall, when you think of this guy, I think the best comparison, not a direct comparison, is kind of just like a Diego Lopez, a guy that's willing to trade on the feet, a lot of fun on the feet, and then on the ground. When it hits the ground, this guy loves chaining together submissions, triangles, arm bars, and using that to his advantage. So I do know that, yes, he doesn't have many submission wins on his resume, and that is kind of annoying to compare to a Diego Lopez. I get that. If you want to shit on me for that comparison, you can go ahead and say that. But I'd say just go ahead and watch his last fight against Hamza Trad. Kind of does remind me to a younger Diego Lopez. And now I say younger. This guy is 29 years old. He's about to be 30, but I'm a big fan of him, okay? I love Roman Puga. I think he is must-see TV. And I do think that Tanner Trembley, kill him quick, is also a lot of fun to watch. Now, when it comes to a stylistic comparison for Tanner Trembley, I don't think there's one perfect style that comes to mind. What I will say, though, is from the back, he kind of does look like Ethan Ewan. Pause, okay? Just he's got a blockhead. And what does that indicate? He's probably going to be tough. Now, let me talk about a little bit of the tape of these fights, right? Let me actually break down Tanner Trembley first. All right, let's try to keep this in one linear path here. Tanner Trembley is a guy with a very good regional record. I'm going to go to this page right here so you can kind of see what we're looking at. Went over 6-1 Corey Taylor. He took this on short notice, up a weight class against Shaheen Santana. Submitted him with a guillotine choke. This guy is a black belt. That's a very underrated win. I know it's 9-7, but Shaheen Santana is a black belt, and there's another pretty impressive win that he has somewhere around here, I want to say. Maybe not, maybe so. Oh, Isaac Thompson. Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that beat Isaac Thompson, who's a UFC prospect that I actually believe in and have a decent bit of stock in, okay? He has a very underrated resume on the regional scene. Cole Alexanian, I remember him just beating, what was it, Damian Nelson? And I remember thinking Damian Nelson wasn't that bad from his one fight. I'm forgetting who it was against, but regardless, another very underrated fight. Gabe Urett, this guy had a really good amateur career. You go here, we're looking at a 7-0 amateur career. Then he goes pro, and his only loss is to Tanner Trembley, and he was a favorite over Tanner Trembley, for good reason. This guy was athletic. I think he was a fullback in high school, had good power, seemed pretty well-rounded. I don't need to go into the whole career of Gabe Urett, but you get the point in where I'm saying Tanner Trembley's regional career is very good. And stylistically, he is the more well-rounded guy. He has good power, and when he lands clean, people go out. And he is on a 8-fight finishing streak since he's gone professional, and then on the amateur scene as well, he had 4 straight finishes. So I don't think he's ever gone to a decision or even ever lost, but he has faced a little bit of adversity. And when you go through his career, it kind of is nice to see because he has developed. You've seen him actively improved. And I think he's kind of at this point where he definitely is not a prospect, but he could go into the UFC right now and have success. So part of the reason why I like this fight so much is I think both of these guys are UFC level. I think both of them are fun. And while stylistically, there is a world where Tanner Trembley relies on his wrestling, and it could be a little bit of a slower, more boring fight if we have a Roman Puga who is content off of his back, throwing up subs, which I don't think he will get in this fight. So that's something I do want to mention, right? There's a chance this happens. There's a chance I might switch this. But for now, we're keeping it on the Puga side. I'm going to talk myself back through this, okay? But going into this video, I was going to be picking Puga. Tanner Trembley is a two-time Minnesota State wrestling champion. He wrestled in college. He's well-rounded, has a good submission game, as you can tell, and he has good power, as I've already said. He doesn't have bad boxing. Off the back foot, he found a couple of good takedowns against Cole Alexanian, but he also got clipped a little bit, okay? And a large reason, one of the biggest reasons why I am picking Roman Puga, outside of the fact that this guy just throws heat, has great power, is the fact that he is quicker and he will have extended combinations. And when I looked at the striking game from Tanner Trembley, I didn't love when he would trade in combinations. And I did see that he was kind of more of like a 1 to 2 punch combination sort of fighter. But what he does really well is he works in the clinch, similar to a fighter fighting later on this card named Logan Paxton. But I think Tanner Trembley is much better than Logan Paxton, a much more polished version of a Logan Paxton. I don't want to say a version because he has his different style in his own regard for sure. He's a lot cleaner than Logan Paxton, but who cares? Tanner is not a bad striker by any means. He has a couple moments on the feet where I think he looks retarded every fight. Like those head kicks that he throws, I think he has too much belief in. You know, when a fighter's just looking for that head kick, he might have got it one time on the regional scene or the amateurs, or it worked one time in sparring, and they're just addicted to it. Tanner Trembley throws too many head kicks, and some of those front kicks that he throws, it looks slow, it looks sloppy. And when I'm seeing shit like that, I don't think necessarily that those are going to be open for a counter, but it just, you know, it just fucking turns me off of him. It turns me off of picking Tanner Trembley. So that might sound stupid. This is a smaller octagon. It is in the apex, right? That will favor the wrestler in Tanner Trembley. But I do think that Tanner Trembley, from the interviews that I saw, he wanted to get a finish here. That was very clear. He's like, I want to push for this finish. I'm going to get a finish, whether it's on the feet, whether it's on the ground. He believes in his own striking, and rightfully so. But I think in this matchup, Roman Puga has a better striking. Now, he did say Roman Puga has very crisp boxing, very crisp striking, very dangerous. And the fact that he can acknowledge that is good, but I don't really think that really takes any high-level breakdown, or that just takes literally one fight to watch from Roman Puga to kind of say. Now, what I will say is when you fight a guy like Roman Puga, and you imagine yourself going in there, if you're not finding the takedowns, this is a very hard guy to fight. I'm not even talking about from the Tanner Trembley perspective, but just think about the kind of styles that would work against Roman Puga. You would need a lot of power. You need some good counter-striking, and Tanner Trembley, he has some counter-striking for sure, but I don't think he's necessarily the most comfortable striking off of the back foot. He can find takedowns off the back foot, like I mentioned in that Cole Alexanian fight. And this is going to be a pretty long breakdown, so just stick with me here. I'm sorry if we're going into every single fight on the regional scene. I got a little bit more to cover, and then we'll get to the other fights. You know, we'll roll through them somewhat quickly. But like, yeah, Tanner Trembley, off the back foot, found some good takedowns. Ducked under, was pretty explosive in this fight against Cole Alexanian, right? Cole Alexanian's a bigger, rangier guy. And when you actually go here and you look at the scales, I thought that he looked very good on the scales. Tanner Trembley did. And I thought Roman Puga looked a little bit small for the division. And Roman Puga has actually fought at the bantamweight division some time ago. Now, that was probably in 2018, 2019 kind of range. But there is clearly probably a strength advantage towards the wrestler in Tanner Trembley. He also has power. He is very well-rounded. He has a good submission game as well. And we know that Roman Puga, when he is on bottom, will throw up submissions. And a guy like Tanner Trembley is someone that I trust to survive. So this could be a situation where we get more top control than we are originally expecting. What I do think is that both fighters will have success in this fight. I think they will be tough. I think they both will have moments potentially on the feet. It might be one of those situations where Roman Puga is clipping Tanner Trembley. Tanner Trembley, you know, scraps a little bit, might have a moment, ducks down, gets a takedown, or he's shooting into the clinch. We're getting a lot of clinch separation combos for Tanner Trembley. That's one thing I really do love about his game and really wanted to you know, use towards my prediction for him in this matchup. I won against him, as you know. But I really liked that he would shoot into the clinch, separate, throw combinations, get back into the clinch, look for the takedown, not get it, get back out of range. You know what I mean? I love someone that will utilize the clinch to kind of mitigate someone with a lot of pressure, mitigate someone with very powerful hands, and then knows how to use it to get to the range that they need to extend in combinations and just, you know, laying off the break. You know what I mean? So he is kind of good at controlling where he is within fight. Oh, man, I'm talking myself into Tanner Trembley right now, but I'm going to stay off it. You know, another reason why I do like Roman Puga is this line movement is kind of scary, where he was plus 245, Sharps immediately handled it, and he goes to minus 163. You know, on Tapology, The weird part is we got 70% of people picking Tanner Trembley, but I swear it's the other way around, where you got 75, 80% of people that I've seen picking Roman Puga and picking him, not confidently because they respect the game of Tanner Trembley, but it's almost like it's a clear pick for them. I really struggled with this prediction. I watched a whole lot of tape. So yeah, I mean, I guess the last thing I want to mention too is Roman Puga beat a guy in Hamza Trad who is 3-2. This looks like a bad record. If you actually go into it, this is a good kickboxer. And something fun to note is he beat Shane Collins on the regional scene. If you don't know who Shane Collins is, he's in the UFC. I like him as a prospect. Get to know him, okay? But this is an underrated win. I didn't love how he was chaining together submissions, not in the sense that he was bad at doing it, because I do think he's good at doing it. Like I said, I believe in the submission game of Roman Puga. I just don't like that going into this matchup, and I think he might do that kind of thing. As he said in his interviews, I'm just going to go out there and do what I normally do. And to be fair, if he does what he normally does, he definitely can have success. He definitely could potentially find a knockout of Tanner Trembley. I picked it by decision because I look at Tanner Trembley, I see his blockhead, I see the fact that he's in big shape, a bigger guy, and I think that he can take punches. Maybe he's chinny to the body, but this just seems like a really tough guy that's willing to get into a dogfight. I ultimately sided with Puga, not only because he was quicker, but if you go back to the Cole Alexandrian fight that I referenced, where Tanner Trembley was finding takedowns off of the back foot and looked kind of good as the fight developed, he was also getting clipped from range early, and Puga was quicker than the guy that he was fighting. So Roman Puga is the pick. It is in the Apex. There are a lot of reasons that scare me off of the Roman Puga side, but at the end of the day, there's something to this kid. He's got some sort of star power. He's got something that draws me to him. Maybe this is Walmart Diego Lopez, or maybe this is the upgraded version. I don't know. I'm a fan of Roman Puga. You should be a fan too. Go watch some tape, even if it's just highlights. This is a very, very exciting fight between two fighters that I think are both UFC levels. So now let's move on to the next fight of the card. All right. How much time did we spend on that? We spent 13 minutes. I might speed up this video. I might not. We're just flow stating out here, brother. All right. Muhammad Ali versus Alik Lorenz. His name is Muhammad Ali, but he is not as good as Muhammad Ali. You probably know both of these guys from the Dana White Contender Series last year. They are both coming off first round losses, first minute losses by knockout. Alik Lorenz got knocked out by Abdul Rahman Yakyayev, and Muhammad Ali got knocked out by Iwu Baraniuski. All right, both of those fighters are some of the best premier prospects of the light heavyweight division currently and have been on long winning streaks. Have been very active too. So when you're breaking down this fight, we have Muhammad Ali, who is sitting here at minus 325. That just ballooned up. Wow. That was just minus 280 before I started filming this video. I could have sworn at least. Let's go to betonline.ag. Let's refresh to make sure that is the case. He's minus 325. Okay, fair enough. So, stylistically, who should I break down first? We'll go with Muhammad Ali. That's the guy that you probably want to see. We're going to be picking him to win. We're going to be picking him to win by a round 1 KO. If he grapples, I think he easily finds a submission. And I think if he has a good fight IQ, he will take Alik Lorenz down and he will submit him. If you aren't familiar with Muhammad Ali, click on his profile. What you will see is this guy is 5-1 and he has 4 wins by knockout, 1 win by decision. That decision win was over Jared Gooden, who was a former UFC fighter in the middleweight division. Now, this is the light heavyweight division, so that's not necessarily the greatest win. And you can't find that full fight anywhere, but you can find highlights. He looked good in moments, but he does look stiff. If I was to break down his style, first off, I would tell you that this guy is a 4-time IBJFF world champion. This guy has grappled with the best of the best. If you go through his record and you look into the grappling, this guy has fought super high levels of competition. He beat Mikey Musumeci. Now, that is kind of just a funny matchup because, Mikey Musumeci is not a guy that weighs all that much. And you're looking at Goliath himself right here and Muhammad Ali. This guy is built out of concrete. He is very jacked, as you can tell. That's not what we're here to break down. He is jacked. Grappling. He's also grappled against guys like Nicky Rod, Marcus Buchecha, Gordon Ryan. If you know anything about jiu-jitsu, you know that this guy's been taking on high-levels opponents. You can go through it. And he obviously is an IBJFF world champion. Can he find the takedowns? Probably. Can he find the submission in round 1? Probably. Should he do that? Probably. Will he do that? Probably not. And this will be a fight that takes place on the feet. All right? And if it's on the feet, he always has the ability to get fluked by a worse fighter that has some power. And Alik Lorenz is most definitely the worst fighter, and he has power. And that's kind of all there is to this matchup. Muhammad Ali, the way that I would describe him if I was to compare him to someone stylistically, this is not going to be a good comparison, but it's to a Gregory Rodrigues. And yes, they're both bald and jacked, but the reason why I say that is Gregory Rodrigues is an IBJFF champion as well. Maybe not the greatest wrestler, but in the striking, they're both pretty stiff for their weight class. They leave their head on the center line. And to my opinion, they both compare in the fact that I think they're glass cannons. These guys can go out and slime someone out because they have power. They have athletic tools. but they are stiff. They are a little bit slower, and they are very chinnable. Muhammad Ali, I believe, perfectly fits kind of that sort of glove. The difference is their striking tendencies, right? And I would say Muhammad Ali is kind of addicted to throwing kicks, right? He's got a good calf kick, but he loves throwing that head kick, and I don't think it really looks that good. You know, I mentioned it in the last fight for Tanner Trembley where he landed one head kick, and it seems like he loves going back to it. That is the exact case with Muhammad Ali here. So do with that information what you will. Factor it in how you want. Alik Lorenz is a guy that, you know, is probably actually the quicker between these two. He does like just to walk forward and pressure and then throw big shots. And then after his first flurry, I mean, that's kind of all I really worry about here. You know, maybe Alik Lorenz keeps the pressure on and does well, but I do think that Muhammad Ali is going to land 2 or 3 calf kicks. So we've seen that weakness from Alik Lorenz before, and Alik Lorenz is going to be in trouble, okay? So Alik Lorenz, to me, he should get submitted if Muhammad Ali is fighting a smart fight where he's looking to find takedowns, which he will, because Lorenz does not have good takedown defense, but Muhammad Ali seems to like the striking game, seems to be in love with just throwing kicks at any moment of the fight. When in doubt, he just throws some sort of a kick out there, whether or not it makes sense. His distance management might be off. Like I said, the head is on the center line, so I am concerned. At minus 325, right? At minus 325, I'm not going to be playing that. At minus 270, which it just was at some point earlier on, I want to say. Maybe it's just been at minus 300 the whole day. No, I swear it was at minus 280. I'm not believing that shit. I wasn't going to be playing it there either. Now that it's kind of moved to minus 330, I kind of wish I maybe took a stab at it. But at the end of the day, Muhammad Ali is a hard guy to trust with your money. Alik Lorenz is a guy that is going to just throw a straight right down the pipe. He's probably going to try to pressure from the get-go, throw a couple of straight shots. And if it lands, it could knock out Muhammad Ali. I just don't think it's going to land. I do think Muhammad Ali might go for the takedowns. I don't know why the fuck he wouldn't. Why the fuck would you not go for takedowns? The problem is I can't trust him to do so in this matchup. And yeah, I mean, I guess that is what it is. Is there anything else I want to say about this matchup? Oh, Alik Lorenz, if I'm breaking him down, yeah, like he kind of just pressures forward. Isn't that good of a grappler? Apparently he was either a high school wrestler or a college wrestler. The wrestling doesn't look that good. He's gotten taken down by bad fighters. And he had a very bad performance against Ryan Parker, who was touching him up, who was getting him in bad positions. And Ryan Parker's not the grappler of the two. Ryan Parker is not a good fighter, just in general. But yeah, I mean, you can only do too much. You know, he lost to Abdul Rahman Yakyaev, came back and got a win against a sub 500 record fighter. So that kind of tells you this guy has not really beaten any level of competition. Same thing with Muhammad Ali, to be fair. But I mean, at least Jared Gooden is some level of a competent fighter, even if it's not the natural light heavyweight division. So I'm taking the bigger guy. I'm taking the guy with power. I'm taking the guy with more ways to win. But I do recognize that he has the type of style where he can get fluke upset by an Alik Lorenz. And with the way that Alik Lorenz throws kind of straight down the pipe, I'm not saying it's good, but it's the type of shot that can clip a guy like Muhammad Ali, who does drop that lead hand, does keep those hands low sometimes, and it fucking scares me. So I'm going to stay off it. I think Muhammad Ali inside the distance, if it's right around minus 150-ish, I think that's a good bet, to be frank with you. So do with that information what you will. I think Alik Lorenz sucks. He's going to look for that front kick up the middle, and I just don't like how he looks, to be honest with you. I'm going to leave it there. All right, next fight of the card. Logan Paxton versus Alex Perez. All right, this is another interesting matchup. I know Logan Paxton isn't a prospect you're probably really excited about, but what I will say is in this matchup, this is really interesting. This is a very interesting fight on paper, at least to me. Okay, last fight, that was some goy slap. This is actually a good job by the matchmakers. Now, I understand that they want Christian Perez in the UFC, and they were probably looking at signing him just outright to some sort of UFC card. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they signed him to the UFC Noche if they didn't put him here, because I think Dana mentioned some interest, or I heard something about the UFC still being interested in him, even though he lost last year on the Contender Series to Manuel Souza. But he finds himself back here fighting Logan Paxton. Why I like this matchup is not because I believe in Logan Paxton as a prospect. I don't believe in the Wolverine, unfortunately. But I do believe that in this matchup, if he's able to weather the storm early, there is a very real world where he builds into this fight and goes to war and just outdoes Christian Perez. Not outdoes him, finishes him, and makes him quit, similarly to how we saw Christian Perez quit in his fight last year against Manuel Souza. So let me tell you what people are saying about this matchup, okay? Logan Paxton sucks. He's hittable. He's a bad striker. His wrestling's not even that good. And he doesn't even have that good of a submission game. And they are correct. And I wanted to pick Logan Paxton here. I picked Christian Perez. I might talk myself back into Logan Paxton right now. When all these things that I just mentioned are true, he is hittable. His striking doesn't look the greatest. You know what I mean? The other things I just mentioned to you is wrestling, which is supposedly his best tool, from what people are saying. I don't even think he's that good. I don't like his takedown entries. I don't like his ability to maybe not control opponents, but I just really don't like his takedown entries. I don't like his ability to actually find takedowns. His takedown defense probably looks fine, but even his scramble ability, like it hasn't really been tested at a high level. He seems very stiff. He's not super athletic. He's a big, strong guy, but that can only take you so far. And I think he's a likable dude. So I'm going to break down this fight in a respectful way, out of respect for the Wolverine. Christian Perez quit against Manuel Souza, and he is getting so much love this week just because he had success against Manuel Souza early. And I'm here to tell you, can we stop overrating that fucking performance? I think it was good. I thought he looked good. I was impressed by him. But motherfucker, are we going to act like Manuel Souza has not been taken down, has not been controlled, and put into bad spots early against other fighters as well? We saw it 2 weeks ago against Richie Miranda. All right? Blagioki was doing all right early on too. I think Blagioki, I want to say he found some takedowns. I honestly didn't rewatch that fight before this. I rewatched it 2 weeks ago, but I have a horrible memory. Ignore my very, very slow typing there. I really want to find this now. I want to say that he got controlled for some moment of that fight against Blagioki, and I think I'm wrong. No, he did. I was right. Yeah, Blagioki took him down and held him down a little bit. Blagioki's not the super fantastic wrestler, and that's not the main fight that I was going to bring up. I was also going to bring up the Richie Miranda fight. Now, obviously, the Christian Perez fight. RG Colgan had some success while on top as well. And then Mauro Chalet, whatever it is, this guy had some success as well. All right. This is going to be a hot take, apparently, from what I've seen throughout this week, from the Twitter breakdowns, and I've watched a couple of people talk about this fight. Oh, bro, he did well against Manuel Souza. A lot of people have done well against Manuel Souza, and with the stylistic matchup and the way that Christian Perez kind of got on top, once you're on top of Manuel Souza, when you have the jiu-jitsu game of a Christian Perez, you should be doing well, okay? The fight in round one played perfectly into Christian Perez's game. I'm not trying to discredit that because it was impressive. What I'm talking about is how it translates to this matchup. All right. I got to work on the speaking right here. To this matchup. All right. I love Manuel Souza. I think he's a great prospect, but he has holes in his takedown defense. And when he does get taken down, he likes to look for the submission. He doesn't have the greatest get-up game. He's okay with being off his back. He is a guy that has been controlled multiple times throughout his career against fighters that are worse than Christian Perez. So I'm not saying it's not impressive because he had success in the striking. He looked good on the feet too, but most of his success was in the grappling, and that fight played perfectly into Christian Perez's game. Round two happened. He found the takedown again. There was a lot of jiu-jitsu, sort of whatever, that type of exchange on the ground. You can go back, you can rewatch it, but it wasn't the highest volume fight. It wasn't a fight where I'm thinking, wow, Christian Perez is going to gas. And then Manuel Souza gets back up to the feet. Christian Perez fails a couple of takedowns because Manuel Souza builds into the fight the way that Manuel Souza always seems to do. And Christian Perez gassed and he fucking quit. Right? I understand it's easy to say, like, oh, he quit and he looked like shit and this, that, the other, and he's a bitch. It was Manuel Souza who does build in the fight. Almost every fight. You know what I mean? Manuel Souza has a thing for just being the GOAT of round three. You know what I mean? So it's not that Manuel Souza is not good. I'm just saying the way that Christian Perez had success in that fight, everyone's talking about it like, oh, dude, this was fucking Damiris Magula versus Guram Kutadaleze, bro. The hardcore matchup of the century. No, it wasn't like that, okay? It was... Okay, that was a bad reference. I'm sorry about that. Sorry to put you through that. But the comparison that I'm making, where it's like two of these prospects that the community had so much belief in, one of them does well and the other one wins, and we're still super high on both of them leaving. I think that's fair to say that Christian Perez is a good fighter. I think he's a good prospect. I've been hating on him so much when I actually need to give him some credit. This guy is a 5-time Mexican world jiu-jitsu champion. That's high-level shit. This guy has great power in the hands. He's very athletic, very explosive. I do like his striking. I think he has good hands. I don't think he's great off the back foot, but he's got a good kicking game. He pairs it with nice, powerful hands, right? He's got a good submission game, and he's actually got a good wrestling game. If you wanted to tell me that Christian Perez was going to out-wrestle Logan Paxton early on here, find takedowns, I would not be super surprised. And I know Logan Paxton is the wrestler. He's actually wrestled in the heavyweight division. But Christian Perez, skill-wise, is the better fighter here. He is the more dangerous fighter here, and I will be picking him. But man, oh man, I cannot get myself to bet on him. I really think this is close to a 50-50 fight, and the reason why I'm so interested in this matchup is Logan Paxton, as I said, he is very hittable. He is kind of sloppy on the feet, but what he does do is he shoots into the clinch well, and Christian Perez will entertain the clinch like a motherfucker. And I don't like that in this matchup, because if you're entertaining the clinch against Logan Paxton, more times than not, he can put you where he wants to put you. Christian Perez loves finding those trips up against the cage, the kind of judo throws, suplexes, whatever it is. He does like throwing those kind of takedowns, and those are the positions where I think Logan Paxton, although we don't have too much tape on people trying to wrestle with him, that's probably where Logan Paxton is going to be very strong, right? And over-under position, I'm trusting Logan Paxton to have the strength advantage. He is a fucking big guy. I heard he's cutting down from 190 pounds, but if you don't know, he used to wrestle as a heavyweight. He's fought at multiple weight classes, and now he's coming back down to the 155-pound division. He trains at Tiger Beetle with Corey Sandhagen, but he also trains, I want to say, with Justin Gaethje as well. He trains at multiple gyms. I heard him say that in an interview. So he trains with Gaethje, Drew Dober, Corey Sandhagen, John Kuhneman, which is actually a bad thing. One of his best friends is John Kuhneman. And he says that they go on hikes together in the mountains. So they're best buds, him and John Kuhneman. I'm not a big fan of John Kuhneman. I'll be honest with you. I told you guys that I was picking him, but I did not like him, and I bet the Joe Cropshot side, and I cashed. I thought that line was ludicrous. I was right to think so. I didn't think the fight would play out that way. But shit, that's why you bet on value sometimes. This is one of those fights where we're also getting some good value on Logan Paxton. But I think if I am going to bet him, I'm going to bet him after round 1 because I think Christian Perez will look very good early. I think he's going to land shots on Logan Paxton. Christian Perez is the quicker striker. He's the more accurate striker. He's got the better submission game. And he has good trips, good judo throws, good wrestling just in general. He has good shots. You know what I mean? I love a lot of this kid's game. But the reality is, I not only saw him gas out against Manuel Souza, but a fight I have not really seen too many people talking about when it comes to the concerns. Against John Marquez, this dude slowed down, right? And this is not an MMA match. This is karate combat where it's primarily striking. And there was some volume to that fight, but it wasn't like a slobber knocker warfare, sock and bop 'em robot, fucking scrapyard dog type of fight. He slowed down. He gassed out. I really am concerned for his cardio here. Logan Paxton, right? Did he look the freshest in round 3 against Jacoby Jones? No, he was slowing down for sure, but that was a high kind of pace of a fight. And part of me just worries if Christian Perez has one moment where he hurts Logan Paxton and tries to put together like a 4 or 5 punch combination, doesn't finish him, has that adrenaline dump, he could gas out, dude. Part of me thinks that could be the case. I really don't know what to think. I'm going to say that this kid lost in the Contender Series against a good prospect, did have some success against Manuel Souza, which is a very impressive thing. I know I downplayed it massively. That is still very impressive. He did still look good on the feet. He does still look very dynamic, and there is a lot of things to like about this kid. I am just very, very, very nervous about certain things in this matchup. I really do think that Logan Paxton will be able to engage in the clinch. Christian Perez will kind of welcome it rather than stuffing his underhooks, trying to circle out, trying to get back to range as quickly as possible. And I think that can lead to some exchanges where Logan Paxton will have success. And I know I mentioned that he's a 5-time Mexican Jiu-Jitsu world champion, which that wouldn't be a Jiu-Jitsu world champion. That would be a Jiu-Jitsu Mexico champion, right? Mexican champion. I don't know why they say that, but there you go. While that is the case, the way that I look at this is I've seen him go for submissions against low-level fighters on the regional scene, chase it a little bit too much, and end up in bad positions. If you're doing that against Logan Paxton, knowing how Christian Perez gassed out in his last fight against Souza, knowing how he slowed down in that fight in karate combat, I don't know if I can trust this kid to have 2 rounds of cardio. So this comes down to, if Logan Paxton survives, he might just win this fight in round 3. And I don't care how badly he's getting his ass beat for the first 2 rounds. If he is on that stool going into round 3, I will be live betting Logan Paxton if that's available on my sports book, which I will find a way to make it available because I'll be in Vegas. We're going to get a sports book or something. I'm going to make sure I have something that could potentially be loaded up on Logan Paxton if this case does occur. All right. Now, I don't think his cardio is that bad. He has won a couple of decisions. But these decisions, I want to say from like 2 of these that I did watch, because I watched a lot of tape on Christian Perez, because I really wanted to pick Logan Paxton. I thought it was a crafty underdog pick. I didn't end up going that way. But from what I saw, I ended up a little bit scared off of the Paxton side just because the dude is so hittable. Just like the first 2 fights I said for Muhammad Ali and Tanner Trembley, he loves throwing his head kick too, because he has a head kick knockout he got back in the day. He throws it and it looks horrible. It looks stiff. Once again, it's kind of a hard shot to counter, but it can be a strike that, you can catch after he lands on some offbeat timing. I don't like the way he throws it. I know he throws that front kick, a karate kind of style. I don't know if I love that, but the reality is he's awkward. Christian Perez, maybe a little bit more traditional. So yeah, I don't know. The last thing I wanted to say, not the last thing, if I just want to break this down, my concerns for Christian Perez, I'm just going to sum it up really quickly into one. It is a lot more simple of a breakdown than I just made it, but I wanted to talk through this because I really do have some stock on Logan Paxton in this matchup. And while I think just with the way I'm predicting it, he's going to get smoked because I think he will get smoked early. But there are so many concerns that I don't see people addressing. I'm just seeing Christian Perez get so much credit for doing something that, some fighters have done that I would argue are lower levels than him, right? So I'm going to say that much. That's all I'm going to say. In the clinch, Christian Perez likes to find a lot of takedowns. That's where Logan Paxton wants to be. I saw someone in a comment section say that Logan Paxton is like Walmart Don Fry, and I can like see it. You know, he likes to clinch up. He likes to throw some slobber knocker hooks up against the cage. If you want to argue like he's a wrestling, a more technical is a strong word for Logan Paxton, but we're just going to ride with it. Stay with me here. A more technical-ish version of a Vlasto Chepa with better wrestling, right? Now, Vlasto Chepa probably has better striking. He does have better striking than Logan Paxton. Than Logan Paxton. Not from a technical perspective, because Logan Paxton does have a powerful jab. I forgot to mention Logan Paxton does have very good power, and he is very dangerous, which is why I think that, you know, I don't think he'll have success early with the striking, but Perez does need to respect it, especially with the takedown threat. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's one of those situations where, like, he will look for the throws. Sometimes he throws himself and ends up on bottom. He does have a good submission game, and he could submit Paxton, but Paxton, just with who he's training with, the camp that he's been at, I think that he will have some pretty solid high-level looks. I just do like the Corey Sandhagen camp. I like the fact that he's training at multiple gyms. I just like what he's saying in interviews. I know he's watched a lot of tape in this fight, and the way that he said and broke down this fight was that he was going to come at Christian Perez. He saw that he's going to quit, and he knows that he's tough. He knows that he can rely on his chin, which we've seen him eat some shots, which is good for better or for worse. But we know that he's tough, and he said that he's like, I know I'm not going to quit him myself, and I thought I'm going to end up breaking him in round 2 or round 3. And I think if he's going to win, that's exactly how he's going to do it, which makes me want to pick the motherfucker. Right? And with the way that people are talking about Christian Perez, you would think that minus 230 would be the value of the century. I don't see it that way. Some people do. If you do, you do. Stay on that side. I can understand why you would want to take the more youthful, athletic, dynamic striker with a more proven resume. Like, if we're going resume for resume, Christian Perez, I mean, even just outside of the Manuel Souza fight, has a much better resume. The guy he lost to, Enrique Gonzalez, who did land a lot of takedowns, was a wrestle, pressure-heavy kind of guy. That guy's actually pretty good. I don't fault him too much for that loss. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I do think he kind of has an underrated resume, but at the same time, stylistically, a guy that's going to engage in the clinch, a guy that is a wrestler that loves to engage in the clinch, and then will separate, throw combinations with violence, will welcome a war at times, in Logan Paxton, is someone that can absolutely win this fight. And stylistically, just based off of me breaking this down and the points that I made, when I talk out loud, I want to pick Logan Paxton, but sometimes you just watch the tape. And as soon as I go back to watching some Logan Paxton highlights or just one of his more recent fights, I see him throw some bullshit kick, and I'm like, I can't fucking pick him to beat Christian Perez. Christian Perez is the better fighter. We all know this. That's not the argument. The argument is it's a tough stylistic matchup, and we might get Christian Perez quitting and gassing out. Now, I'd like to think that he's not going to do that. He's been training MMA for 16 years. If you've been training for that long, if you've been putting on these performances you've been putting on, man, you can't do all that just to quit once again. So, yeah, I mean, Logan Paxton has a good chin, but it can only go so far versus someone who has good power when you are as hittable as Logan Paxton is. So I talked a lot about that fight. I am sorry, guys. We're 37 minutes deep here. I am sorry. But we'll get going. Douglas Blade versus Trent Miller. I'm going Douglas Blade, Rodrigues. I'm going to say around 2 KO. All right? I don't like this matchmaking. It sucks. It's kind of goy slop. All right? Trent Miller is not good. He's not good. He's horrible. He's one of the worst fighters on the Contender Series this season, if not the worst, right, that I've discovered, at least up until this point. Got KO'd by Ryan Gondra. Shouldn't have even been on the Contender Series at that point by any means, but he ended up there, right? He's got some good KO power, but if you watch this guy throw strikes, it's very, very slow. You know what I mean? I'm telling you guys, I could walk in there, get a couple jabs off on Trent Miller. Bang, bang, ba, 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 and he's out of there, dude. I might school this guy. I'm definitely talking too much shit. Trent Miller's not that bad of a fighter, but he is not UFC level. And the fact that the UFC let him put on Dana White's Contender Series shorts that has the UFC branding on them is a shame. And the matchmakers should go fuck off somewhere. You know what I mean? Seriously, go fuck off somewhere. You're telling me you couldn't find another fighter similar to Douglas Rodrigues that's just willing to scrap on the feet, has good power, similar to like a Ryan Gondra, an unproven guy on the regional scene? There's millions out there, dude. There's so many guys. This could have been an interesting matchup. I don't necessarily hate the signing of Douglas Rodrigues, but I'm not over the moon about it. You know what I mean? Why are you giving this guy of all guys a layup matchup? Why the fuck do we need to see Trent Miller back? Douglas Rodrigues could be a part of an interesting matchup on the Contender Series. Why are you not doing that shit, dude? Right? So now let's break it down. Round 2 KO for Douglas Rodrigues. He's decently quick. I worry about his gas tank. I worry about his takedown defense. His submission game seems okay, right? His power seems all right. You know, I've watched some sparring of his on his Instagram. It looks good. He does have the quicker hands. He's got a good low kick. He's got a good kicking game. Trent Miller is allergic to low kicks, and I think his leg will get torn apart. Trent Miller has slow hands, wing overhands. Trent Miller doesn't have the best cardio as well. Maybe he could get some wrestling going. But Douglas Rodrigues is quicker. I think he will probably be a fade in the UFC unless he shows me something that he hasn't shown me before. The weird part about Douglas Rodrigues is it feels like he has the right tools. He just doesn't put them together. And I think that's the way to describe him. Kind of a reason why I'm not super high on him. In his one loss, you weren't able to see much, but what you could see is that he was taken down. He went for a guillotine. The fight got stood up, and then on the feet, he got KO'd. So maybe the chin is suspect as well. All I know is when I watch Trent Miller fight, I like my chances of getting on the Contender Series at some point if I train for fucking 5 years, man. If I train for fucking 3 years, to be honest with you, Trent Miller's not that good. I might be hating too much, but yeah, dude, not a big fan. Not a big fan. Douglas Blade Rodrigues, he's got good low kicks. He is quick. His head stays on that motherfucking center line. And he also is a guy that will just camp out in the clinch, right? Someone will clinch him, and then he'll just fuck off, enjoy the time, look at the stands, see what temperature the air is, watch the clock wind down and do jack shit, and I hate that about him. But, I mean, he stuffs the takedowns, has some pretty strong hips, does go for submissions when he is on the ground, doesn't seem to have a great ability to scramble and get back up to the feet, but against a low-level competition that he has faced, he had threatened, some submissions and then used them to eventually get back up. Now, I don't think that'll work against UFC-level competition, but Trent Miller is not that UFC-level competition. And then some positive things I will say about Douglas Rodrigues, because I kind of really hope that he has a fun performance, finds a KO in round one. This Gabriel Ramos opponent is, if you actually watch the tape, a good opponent, like an actual decent opponent, not Goy Slop, that's like a decent win to have on record. And there was one other win where I was like, all right, this guy's not too bad. I don't want to say it was Jamie Souza, but it might have been Jamie Souza. And it might not have been. I don't honestly remember which one it was. But I wanted to say, Wesley Do Nascimento, this guy. This guy was actually like pretty good. Wait, no, maybe it wasn't this dude. There was one guy. Oh, fuck, man. I watch tape and I forget it. Bullshit. This is bullshit. Oh. This guy is actually pretty decent, I think, from what I saw. I actually thought this guy was pretty decent. Yes, it went to a decision. But it tells you that Douglas Rodrigues is a guy that will take the path of least resistance at times. Sometimes he will just stay on the outside, throw the low kick. And he does kind of slow down, and he will kind of do the light heavyweight, middleweight, higher weight class special of, fucking off, staring at the opponent, and then charging up for a combination, fucking off. And then he'll just fuck off at range, spam the low kick, and do basically nothing else. And I think that's enough to beat Trent Miller because he is quick, he is dynamic, and he hits fucking hard. So that's all you really need. Not the most excited for that matchup. But once again, I still think this is a great card, and I think this main event we're about to talk about is money. Money. All right, I'm really excited for the main event. I'm really excited for the first fight of the night, and for the Logan Paxton, Christian Perez fight, I'm weirdly excited for as well. And then outside of that, we have two Goy slot matchups, but they should end in a fun way. You know what I mean? I would like to see Douglas Rodrigues kind of prove me wrong in terms of my doubts and my criticisms and look very good. I'd love to see those improvements. You know what I mean? In sparring, he looks very good, but it just kind of looks like sometimes he's just low volume and isn't really willing to put out the volume, trust his jab. And I've seen him throw a good jab at times, but he doesn't go to it consistently enough, There's certain, like I said, this guy has good tools. It just doesn't all come together, it feels like. I don't like his extended combinations either. The head stays on the center line. But against Trent Miller, this should not be a problem. I'm honestly, it's at minus 400 now, man. I was thinking about playing minus 350. Shit skis. Fuck. All right, man. Oh, well. Let's move on to the main event. I'm going to go check this right after because sometimes my book updates late. I might just throw that down. To be fair, it's probably a good thing I didn't bet it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a fucking massive cortisol spike waiting to happen if you bet on that fight. But, yeah. Let's move on to the main event. Namo Fazil versus Kaik Brito, man. I'm really excited for this matchup. I think a lot of the MMA community is torn about who to predict in this matchup, and both sides, to me, make a lot of sense. I'm a pretty big fan of Kaik Brito in terms of what he's done on the regional scene. I can appreciate what he's done. I don't know if I'm a pretty big fan. I'm a fan of him. I've been a fan of his work. I'm not like the biggest Kaik Brito guy, but I think he's UFC level, and I think he deserves another chance. Now, this is a tough matchup. Stylistically, though, he has a lot of advantages against Namo Fazil, and I think Namo Fazil is a good prospect. This is a guy you probably know for talking a lot of shit all fight week. You know what? I should have been showing you the scales and the sizing matchups. Here's Mahamed Ali versus Alik Lorenz, Christian Puga versus this geezer, Logan Paxton, and then we got these two gentlemen, Douglas Rodrigues versus Trent Miller. Douglas is, not as big as maybe Tapology says, but there you go. So we're talking about this fight. Here's Kaik Brito versus Namo Fazil, a pretty intensive stare down. But, Kaik Brito just walking through the fight week, low cortisol. You got Namo Fazil talking a whole lot of shit. And Kaik Brito's just sitting there smiling like the cute little bastard he is. I like Kaik. I think he's got good power. I think he's a good counter striker. I think he has the tools to snipe Namo Fazil. But this is how I see the fight going. Round 2, KO for Namo Fazil. The reality is Namo Fazil, love him or hate him, this guy is tough. And he has talked a lot of shit throughout his career, and he has backed it up. This guy can fucking scrap. Now, he's going to be the shorter opponent. He kind of fights a little bit short, and he actually, weirdly enough, does well when opponents are pressuring them. And Kaik Brito, if he's playing the counter-striking game, if he's being very respectful of Namo Fazil and Namo Fazil's counters, then Kaik Brito might be in a situation where he's low volume and then he's looking for the one shot and can't find success. Now, why I'm really concerned about the Namo Fazil side here, and I'm not going to be betting it, is because this guy talks shit, and the way he's talking is like he's going to go out there and throw 20 punch combinations from the second they touch gloves. I hope that's not the case, but I kind of do because that would be really fun to watch, to be frank. But if I was betting Namo Fazil and picking Namo Fazil from that perspective, I hope that's not the case. Because Kaik Brito off the back foot is very powerful with that step back right hand. He's got a very powerful jab too. He dropped Robert Bruchek, and that led to the finishing sequence. If you know who Robert Bruchek is, he's in the UFC, KO Brad Tavares, yada, yada, yada. All right, Kaik Brito has been KO'd a couple times. If we click on his Tapology right here, you can see that. We got 2 losses, one in the first round, one in the third round. He lost to Oban Elliott on the Dana White Contender Series. I want to say that was last year. Could have been 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago, I want to say, actually. 2023. 3 years ago. Fuck me. Since then, he is 3-1. He has 3 KOs. I thought there was 1 submission. No, he has 3 KOs, one of them coming in the third round against Ronald Paradiser. Ronald is not horrible. He's kind of a tough, bigger sort of frame. Southpaw matchup, so it took him a little bit to adjust to that. But what I will say about Kaik, while he is a good counter striker, while he does have good power, his cardio is questionable. His fight IQ is questionable. And he just does weird shit. I don't love the spinning elbows. I don't love the spinning kicks, right? He actually throws a very good spinning wheel kick, and I do like the optics for that. But the amount of spinning back fist this guy throws is very annoying. And for the sake of keeping my cortisol levels low, I will not be holding a Kaik Brito moneyline ticket or KO ticket, to be honest, to be frank with you. He looked very good against Oban Elliott in times. He rocked him. And then he pushed for the finish at the end of round 2, didn't end up getting it. Slowed down, and then round 3, Oban Elliott built into that fight, used his IQ to kind of win that one. Kaik Brito, like I said, not the greatest fight IQ and not the greatest cardio, and this is kind of the matchup where if he's not able to snipe Namo Fazil, who has shown a very good chin up until this point in his career, and very good combinations, and a good ability to go to war, if he's not able to snipe him or find a big shot or really fight off the back foot and stay safe for 3 rounds, which definitely is possible, then I don't think he wins this fight. You know what I mean? One thing is clear. Kaik Brito, with the bigger frame, the rangier guy, is going to be the much quicker guy. And I will say this much. I thought Namo Fazil looked like shit in his fight against Jake Babian. Now, that was 1 year off, and maybe that was a ring rust kind of situation. Now this is him being a little bit more active. But he looked like shit in that fight, I thought, on the feet. And if he shows up looking like that, I think Kaik Brito is going to snipe him. This is a very close prediction for me to make. But when I'm looking at Namo Fazil coming out here and beating Yakub Suleimanov, who is a very tall guy, has some power, not the touch of death, right? Kaik Brito probably has better power than him. But this dude is a tall bastard. This was an impressive fight. He extended combinations and landed a beautiful hook in round 3. And he rose to the moment because in between round 2 and round 3, the organizer of the promotion said, if someone wins by knockout in this fight, I'm giving the winner $20,000. So he went out there and he knocked him out in the third round. Rose to the moment. It's good to see. He talked a lot of shit. I imagine he talked shit in this Jake Babian fight. I don't really remember the buildup. I remember watching it live. He found a finish. I thought he looked like shit, but I went back, I rewatched all the other tape, and I was more impressed than I was expecting to be because I want to say last week I watched the Jake Babian fight, and I was kind of out on Namo Fazil and his UFC potential, thinking this guy was going to get sniped as a matter of time. I actually went into this week expecting myself to pick Kaik Brito because of that last fight, but I've thought he's looked better. I mean, shockingly enough, against worse competition. That's going to sound pretty obvious, but like against Jai Woong Jun, he looked quicker. He had better combinations. He wasn't like forcing it. He just didn't look rusty. He looked a lot quicker, and I don't think I'm going to rely on him to slow down. That fight was at middleweight, so maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's the weight cut, but I thought he didn't look that bad against Yakub Suleimanov. He didn't look perfect. He got hit with a perfect straight left, which was basically straight right, but the guy was a southpaw, I want to say. And maybe I have that backwards, actually. Let's look at this. I feel like it shows on the Tapology profile, right? Anyways, who gives a fuck? Got hit with the perfect rear power shot straight down the pipe, and he got rocked, but he just recovered. The dude has a chin made of granite, from what I can tell. With the way he could charge into combinations and look to take Fazil's head off, Kaik Brito's head off, that could be a situation where Kaik Brito says, thank you, jab 2, or fade back 2. He's going to be landing the low kick. Namo is open to that, but Kaik Brito is also open to the low kick. Kaik Brito is also the guy that will shoot takedowns when he doesn't need to. And he'll go for weird positions, maybe chasing a submission, end up in a bad spot. When he's off his back, he will chase submission. So if Namo really does get hurt, I think he could potentially find a takedown and have some success there. But I will say, from Kaik Brito's fights before the Contender Series, I was kind of expecting him to get controlled if Oban Elliott did get the fight down to the ground. And he actually did a pretty good job of using his kicks to push off of Oban Elliott, create enough space to get back up to the feet. And while he does have a good submission game off his back, he is a black belt. And like I said, this kid is very talented. And he is a pretty fluid striker. I forgot what the counterpoint. I forgot where I was going with that sentence, to be honest with you. While he is very talented, he does dumb shit. And it's hard to trust him. So he's got the tools. He's got the talent to do this. But the fact that I've seen him slow down, the fact that I've seen a bad fight IQ, for all these reasons, I'm going to lean toward Namo Fazil, and I'm picking him by a round 2 KO. So this is my full card predictions. I'm trying to think about anything else that I want to mention. I think I really went into depth on every single one of these fights. I should have a video dropping soon, which is my Dana White's Contender Series Season 10 guide, where I'm going through every single week, the prospects you should know. Make sure to check that out. That should be dropping soon. How soon? I don't know, but time will tell, ladies and gentlemen. So this has been the full card predictions and betting breakdown. I'm just going to try to bang out a couple more points here, but I think it's just simple. Oh, another thing I do want to mention is Kaik Brito, like, he will get impatient and he will pressure at times. And Namo Fazil has a very underrated counter game. I would really recommend watching that Jusang Yu fight, or Jusang Jun fight, whatever it was, against that Asian dude who, didn't look that good, but that dude was tough, had a crazy, crazy chin in that fight. I know he's been knocked out a few times since, but he really showcased a crazy, crazy chin, in my opinion. I was really impressed with the shots he was able to eat, and he was just moving forward, pressuring, and just honestly, like, I imagine myself fighting this guy. Like, I was putting myself on Namo Fazil's, whatever his fucking shoes, and I was shitting my pants. I would be shitting my pants with the fucking combinations this guy is throwing, with the punches he was eating. Namo was landing clean shots. This guy might, give him a little head nod and just keep swinging fucking slobber knocker hooks. Banger of a fight. Namo Fazil really does have a fun style. I am rooting for him. His one loss came to a pretty high-level wrestler, grappler, athletic dude that has only lost one time and seems like a very good prospect in his own right, who is most definitely UFC level. So I don't fault him too much for that. The better power between the two is Kaik Brito, but like I said, Kaik Brito, he does kind of like the pressure in moments. And when he does pressure, he throws that right hand and he kind of drops it. And the way he exits exchanges, I think that someone with extended combinations could catch him. So while Kaik Brito has the advantage of being the one-shot sniper against Namo Fazil, who is decently hittable, who has been clipped with a straight rear punch right down the pipe 2 fights ago, right? Who is the slower guy, Kaik Brito being the faster guy, who actually is pretty comfortable at the back foot. Should do pretty well, but Namo Fazil, good combinations, mixes it up to the body well, is a tougher guy. I think probably has the better cardio here. I would lean towards him in the cardio. I've seen Kaik slow down a couple of times. So I guess that's where I'm going to kind of throw this. But what I do see is Kaik Brito, I think he will have a big moment early. I think he will have some moments. I think Namo's going to come out fighting like a fucking stubborn, greedy man that calls himself the grandson of Saladin and is the fucking gangster of Kyrgyzstan. And I think he's going to get touched. I think he's going to eat a jab or a straight right or maybe a low kick, something powerful from Brito that's going to make him a little bit nervous. There might be a close call with like a spinning elbow when Kaik Brito's throwing some bullshit, because that's what he's going to do. But like, I know I'm talking shit on these fighters a little bit. It's not that I think they're shit. I actually think this is a pretty good matchup where both these guys can have success in the UFC. And you heard me say that a little bit about Christian Perez, but and this fight is here as well. Like, I'm really excited for the first fight in the main event here. I think these are 2 banger ass matchups. So when I talk shit, take it with a grain of salt. We're just saying bullshit, to be honest with you. But Kaik Brito, he will get impatient. He will pressure sometimes, and sometimes he does overextend on his shots. And I've always kind of thought that he's there for counter hooks. I think the counter game of Namo Fazil is very underrated. He does deal with pressure very well. And ultimately, like, he tucks his chin. He can eat fucking punches. His head movement's not, spectacular, but it's not poor. He does the right things. He has good cardio. He is tough. He's backed it up until this point in his career, and he's fought high levels of competition, and he's won. You know what I mean? Say what you want about Jake Babby, and that's a guy that a lot of people liked going into that matchup, and he gets it done, and he looks bad doing it, but the fact that he looked as bad as he did, as slow as he did, and he still got it done makes me feel confident in Namo Fazil. So, yeah, I mean, I really just hope that, maybe I don't hope, because that would be kind of fun to watch him get clipped early, recover, go all wide-eyed, and this turn into a scrap of a fight. But for the sake of betting him and for the sake of predicting him to win, I kind of would hope that this guy is not just going to go out there throwing 30-punch combinations trying to prove to everyone that he's the toughest guy in the world, because it seems like that's his goal at this point. You know, he's the tough guy, the Kyrgyzstan gangster. He's going to fuck everybody, man. Your mother's a whore. That's the kind of vibes I get from this guy. You know what I mean? And I actually don't mind it, to be honest with you, because he's so entertaining on the mic, and it kind of does cringe you out. You're kind of like, oh, fuck this guy. But I've always said the guys that you hate are the guys that you are going to be pretty excited for when their fight does come around. So I can appreciate the character. I kind of have been drawn to Namo Fazil a little bit. I recognize how fun of a stylistic matchup this is, and I will give the UFC their credit. Namo does have some submissions to his game, to be honest. I'm not super impressed with his grappling, and I think Kaik Brito might weirdly be live to land a takedown. He does like to shoot him. He is athletic. His takedown shots are not horrible, and with the threat that he has on the feet and the unpredictability, I guess if he explodes in, I definitely could see him finding a takedown. I don't think he will find a submission, because Fazil has been put in some bad spots against good grapplers, and he does have like a decent ability to scramble. But I mean, that's something to look at potentially as well. So before I keep ranting about all the different things you consider on this fight and every single fight that they've been through, just know this is a very, very fun fight. This is. It should be cool. This could be a war. And I think the worst case scenario with how this fight would play out entertainment-wise, well, maybe they just both look like shit, but I think would be just a very early premature finish. And even then, that'd be crazy to see Namo Fazil going out there and finishing Kaik Brito. That'd be fucking insane to see. A first round finish from Namo Fazil. I also think Kaik Brito is just good off the back foot. He moves around. And that's the next thing I want to say. If Namo is really going pressure heavy and Kaik is not finding the big shot, if he's moving around while getting pressured for a whole fight for 3 rounds, I think Kaik might slow down. So I guess that's the last thing I kind of wanted to mention. There's probably a few other points. You know, this is probably at this point nearing an hour long. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to tune into my video coming out pretty soon, where it's my 2026 guide to the Dana White Contender Series. If you're watching this video, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I promise that I will try to keep my breakdowns a little bit shorter in the future. I'm just really excited about this card. I watched so much fucking tape on all these fighters. I wanted to get it out here. And, you know, we are flow stained a little bit, so thank you so much for watching. Make sure to take care, and let's make some bread. Let's get some picks right, and I will see you next week. And I will see you actually sooner than that, because you're going to fucking like, subscribe, and watch the rest of my videos. All right. Take care. Peace.